in there, but will you be putting the presentation that was made by Delta 3 on the internet and making that presentation available?
We can, yes.
I think it would be a good thing. There was a presentation made on what's going to be done on 4th Street, and it should be noted that the idea is to begin construction in April from basically the middle school south to Main Street, and that would take place April and May, my recollection was, and then kind of to put that on hold for a little while
Yes,
as construction is done from the middle school, Madison Street, north to Camp. So
correct.
that's done through the summer, and then kind of to go back and finish up the southern portion after school begins. So I think the idea is to have the Madison to Camp Street portion done during the summer when school isn't in session. My understanding is that this is a reconstruction that involves water, sewer, storm sewer, and a total reconstruction of the road. Is that correct?
Yes,
And you'll see that that's put up on the city's website, right?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the department progress reports? All right, seeing none, we'll go into the first action item, which is adopting the 2015 fee schedule. I think in the staff note, it does note the fire department and recreation department portions of the fee schedule have been updated since the last meeting, so I think otherwise it's what you've seen before. Does anybody have any questions?
I have one question to start off with. Library. Overdue fines, fees. It says for 2014 it's 50 cents, and 2015 it's 10 cents. Is that a reduction or an error?
I'm sorry, what was that?
It's overdue fines, fees. In 2014 it says it's 50 cents. 2015 it says it's 10 cents. Is that a change or an error?
It's a change in the fee structure. The library board controls the fees for the fines, and they've always charged 10 cents, even though the resolution said 50 cents. So it's not a change in practice. However, it is a change in what the requirement was.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I did note, as was noted, that the fire department fees are now included. By establishing this fee, does that, I mean, we haven't approved the fire.
That's on later, yep, we haven't approved it yet.
Am I to assume that this is consistent with the agreements?
Yes.
Seems like we're doing that a little backward.
Well, you could make the motion with the note that we will be discussing it later and that it's included if we approve it. Other questions?
This, I had a question about, as far as graves, increase the price for a lot and digging a grave. Do those prices now proposed reflect actual cost as far as digging?
Well, maintaining a cemetery is very expensive. Selling a plot within the cemetery, we need to take into consideration a lot of different costs associated with maintaining the cemetery. So by raising the fees, we're trying to, I guess, make it perhaps less desirable to purchase those lots. Our cemetery is a very expensive entity to maintain, and it costs well over $100,000 a year just to mow the cemetery. Increasing these fees by $50 is only going to help try to recover some of those costs. Did that answer your question, Mr. Killian?
Yes.
Okay.
You're saying we should go be buried somewhere else.
Well, I'm saying the more headstones we mow around, the longer it takes.
I'll just put this out there, but cremations maybe shouldn't have gone up then. Don't need to get into that conversation.
Do we have any,
For rationalizing the space and the mowing.
Actually, with cremations, a lot of times they still have headstones.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize. Okay.
We are encouraging headstones to be flat with the surface of the soil, but there are a significant number of them that are not.
So are you saying we should consider changing policy on vegetation or landscaping sometime?
Well, if you desire to find an alternative way to care for the grounds, you certainly could have that discussion. I wasn't proposing that with a change to the fee schedule.
No, I don't want to change the fee schedule. I just
Okay.
want to find it more user-friendly.
We're not going.
I'm done.
I'm not sure who the user is.
those are all the questions I have.
I make a motion, we
Not long.
approve the 2015 fee schedule as proposed, noting that we will discuss the fire agreements shortly.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. We'll vote.
Den,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes?
Stockhausen,
Yes,
Bonin,
Yes.
Killian,
Yes,
Nichols,
Yes.
Seaboth Wilson,
Yes.
motion carries.
Next item is contract 614, taxi service. Howard.
Yes. Thank you. December 1st, we received one proposal for shared ride taxi service from Running Inc. out of Viroqua, Wisconsin. Our current shared ride provider declined to submit a proposal. Running was one of the proposers in 2010 that was barely beaten out by Top Hat for the previous term. I've included a copy of the request for proposal. The actual proposal is available in our office. As stated here, the evaluation committee was comprised of 3 individuals, one student, one staff member, and one citizen who does not work for the university and is concerned about transportation of seniors. And they met in accordance with the DOT's guidelines on how to evaluate the proposals, and they're recommending award of the taxi contract to Running Incorporated. The contract calls for a fixed price for 2 years through December 31st, 2016. As stated here, in 2014, our contract price is $24.99 per hour. When I did a budget, I assumed $26 per hour. The contract price in the bid was $26.88. And you can see here that there is a small local share that's expected to increase. This amount, we believe, should be covered by reduction in the bus contract price based on the bids. The shared ride taxi contract will begin on January 1st, and if extended, could go through December 31st, 2019. In the audience tonight, we have Mr. Dave Lowe. He's representing Running Incorporated. If you have any specific questions, you can ask him, and he'll try to answer as best he can. We've been working, the Top Hat folks have been working with Running, assuming that you will be awarding the contract tonight. And for our taxi customers out there, it should be a seamless transition. The taxi, Running is using the same taxi office. We have the same taxi vehicles. They've been hiring pretty much the same drivers. They're using the same telephone number to call. So whether you call for a ride on December 31st or you call for a ride on January 2nd, it should be pretty much the same procedure as what you're used to. And I didn't know, did you raise your hand?
No, I did not.
Okay. That's Mr. Lowe, in case you wanted to speak with him.
one,
So-
I'm sorry, Howard.
That, that's all I have, and I'm recommending award as per the committee recommendation.
I have one quick question. Now, when those vehicles will come back in before they're reissued out to the new people that will run our taxi service, will they be totally gone over and all repairs made so they're ready to go by us, the city garage? Or how does that work?
We can do that, but I've been relying on these folks. I don't know why they would want to accept a taxi vehicle that is not in the proper condition.
Okay. I would just thought maybe since the maintenance was required during the use of those vehicles by the previous company, shouldn't they put them back in DOT and tip-top shape condition before they come back in?
Yes, they're supposed to be in fully operational condition. The in the consent agenda under the taxi licenses, Top Hat had a local mechanic, ASE certified mechanic from a totally separate organization, certify that these vehicles are safe for operation, and that was part of the packet is in here.
Okay, because I was just curious, because I talked to a taxi driver that told me on the blue vehicle, that one of the doors is not working, and that the lights stay on one of the other vehicles when you turn the ignition, all the warning type lights.
One thing that you all need to realize is that the blue one that you're talking about, that was a 2007 van. That one has been retired from service,
Okay.
and it is in the process of being disposed of in accordance with DOT and city regulations.
Thank you.
We'll look into any of these other allegations as you wish.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Since there is an increase in price, will we see a request to increase the city's portion of this, of the shared taxi ride amount from?
What I'm proposing is that if we in fact approve the taxi contract, and if we approve the bus contract, my budgeted price for the bus contract was higher than the actual bid price, and that we could use some of the savings in the bus contract and use that local share that the university is providing to subsidize the taxi portion of the system.
Other questions?
Oh, was the RFP based at all on, I mean, certainly when this RFP was developed and this bid was submitted, gas prices were a whole lot different than they are now.
Don't count on them staying there.
Well, that's one of the risks that or advantages now that these bidders have to endure. Under the DOT's pricing structure, the pricing is fixed for 2015 and 16. So, for them, it's a good deal because prices are down right now. If prices go back up again, it may not be quite as good a deal for them.
I have a question. What records are kept as far as the riders of the taxi service? Young people, middle-aged, elderly people? Are these records kept? Anything at all?
Asked for those before.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to ask you to come up to the podium and,
Well, I guess I'm asking the question what you're going to be keeping.
Well, he has,
He still needs to come forward to the microphone.
just for our recording purposes, because we do record our meetings, if you could give your name, please.
My name is David Lowe, and I represent Running Incorporated. We keep, in each, on a driver log, each individual, usually by address rather than necessarily name or but some identification thing. We keep track of the number of reduced fare rides, seniors, people with disabilities. Again, those numbers are kept separately. The number of full fare rides are kept separately. So we have each class of individual by fare type, the number of rides that we do. But because we're a public transit entity, we don't record every name and every address, and so that we've got that kind of identification. So we're told to show up at, 35 Main Street. We show up at 35 Main Street and pick up someone there and take them to Walmart. We don't necessarily write down their name and all that identifying information. If there's a question as to whether they qualify for the reduced fare because of age, we may ask them for an ID to prove that they're older than they look. But so we do record all of those things, total number of rides by fare category.
And do you also record the number of rides per time of day?
We do, but the log sheets will have what time the calls came in and what time the pickup was made. So that, for example, if we find that we really are shorthanded at 11:30 in the morning, we can go to Howard and say, we need to make an adjustment so we've got an extra vehicle on then, and we're a little slow at 5:30 in the afternoon, so we can take that half hour and move that. So, yeah, we do monitor when we're in use and when hopefully we won't have a lot of times that we've got delays, but it's inevitable that it's going to happen. So we'll note that and work with the city to adjust this schedule within the number of hours and the parameters.
In the past, we've asked the previous taxi services to do a month-to-month ride schedule along with the times. We used that before to determine if we needed to add hours and things like that. Would that be a possibility?
We do monthly reports to the city in terms of our ridership now. And if we notice any issues, I mean, depending on exactly if Howard has a form that he wants us, or you have a form that you want us to work with, we'll be more than happy to do that. Otherwise, we'll just say, we'll report anomalies and say we've got way too many people at X time or something like that for the schedule that's there. But yes, we do track that stuff. So we'll share anything you want us to share with you.
Thank you.
Dick?
In lieu of what happened this past year as far as a tragedy, do you have any safety or any way of protecting your drivers, maybe that wasn't out there before? Or?
We have, every hour that the service is on the street, we have a dispatcher on duty. So, and there are code words that our drivers are trained with, so as to not to arouse suspicion. But if they say the magic word, the dispatcher calls the police department and knows about where they are in terms of things like that. So the answer is, we think we are covered. There's no such thing, I suppose, as foolproof, but we try.
Thank you.
Barb? Nothing else? Okay. Anybody else have any questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there a motion?
I make a motion, we award the contract 614 taxi service to Running Incorporated at a contract price of $26.88 per hour, starting January 1, 2015. And if extended through December 31 of 2019, noting that this includes extended Sunday hours beginning January 1, 2015.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. We'll vote.
Den,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Stackhausen,
Yes.
Bonin,
Yes.
Killian,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Seaboth Wilson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next item is contract 1414 MPO trail paving and lighting engineering proposal. Howard.
Yes, thank you very much. November 26th, we received one proposal for engineering services for designing the moving Platteville Outdoors Paving and Lighting Project. It is a joint proposal by IIW and Delta 3 Engineering. The Platteville Community Arboretum, or the PCA, has been lead agency among the many who are sponsoring this project. They established a committee, evaluated the proposals, and they also will recommend award to that joint venture. You're all aware about how they're tentatively awarded a grant of over $642,000. It has gone to the Joint Finance Committee for review and approval. I don't have an update as to whether or not that's been approved at this point. There's the additional federal grant of $45,000. Staff believes it can be accepted with minimal additional requirements. The municipality is the one who is the sponsor for the grant because municipalities are the only ones that are eligible for these things. So it will be done by the city for the entire community and all those entities that are done. We have pledged $200,000 towards the project from city funding. I'm happy to report that we don't have to remove any snow from trail at this point in time. I'm hopeful that if we can get this contract signed and going right away, maybe we can get the topography collected before we get any more snow. But if we have to remove snow for that purpose, it will be credited against our pledge. There's wording in here regarding the promises that were made during different budget cycles for providing trail maintenance, and the PCA's pledge to reimburse half of the cost of the trail paving maintenance up to $2,500 annually. Gene Weber and Chris Wright are here from the Arboretum in case you have any specific questions for them. They did in fact provide a letter today with an update on their progress so far. It looks like things are proceeding very well. So if you've got any questions about that effort, I would direct you to them. But otherwise, I would recommend award to the joint venture of IIW and Delta 3 Engineering for the bid price of $219,852.
Questions?
Has Representative Tranel been involved with the state finance, joint finance committee?
I would rather that they come forward.
Jean, you have to come to the microphone.
Sorry.
Gene, we were gonna get you up at the microphone one way or the other. Thought he could hide in the back of the room.
Yes, both Travis Tranel and Howard Markline have been contacted and are working through that right now with us.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we have representatives online with this project since it's quite substantial money
Yes,
involved.
they have been with us all the way through this project, so.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I have a question as far as the engineering of it. Will we get to see the plan as far as some of these things? Well, one thing in particular I'm wondering about. I walked the trail from Chestnut to Valley Road. Walked it last week. And quite a bit of the trail goes along the Roundtree Branch. Now, if we blacktop along the Roundtree Branch, which is being planned, flooding by that stream in my opinion, could peel off the blacktop. So my question is, what's going to be done to prevent the peeling off of the blacktop? How is that trail going to be protected? I've seen examples of this taking place along roads, highways, where the water flowing undercuts the blacktop and takes it away. So my question is, what is going to be done in the way of engineering? Is there going to be rock placed along the trail by the stream, or what? So maybe that question could be answered when?
Howard, I'm going to defer that one
Yeah.
to you.
Thank you. No, the design firm is, the joint venture is going to be reviewing all of these issues. If there are places where they believe that there's an extraordinary chance of a washout, they're going to be looking at alternatives, potentially riprap, potentially even concrete in certain areas where they believe that a high probability of erosion could occur. Now, getting a 100-year storm event, parts of that trail will probably be underwater during parts of that time, and I could easily see that we would need to maintain parts of that trail after a large storm event. We need to be realistic as to what we can do with the money that we have and look at the risks involved. You can't design a way for every contingency, but you can look at those things and work on them as best you can, and realize that those risks may occur.
And if they occur, then the city is responsible for the repair, and the PCA is going to contribute $2,500 at the most in a particular year for paving. Is that correct?
From the PCA standpoint, that is correct.
Yes. Okay, and then other maintenance, what about the lights? All the lights, and let's say there's vandalism to lights, and et cetera, all those costs will go to the city, is that correct?
Yes, city or the city's insurance.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Then in walking the trail, I did see that, for example, by the steps, one of the signposts was almost completely rotted off. And then when I got to the Valley Road, a metal post was just lodged there, apparently been hit. And then also I noticed that some of the railings were different heights. So will all these items be standardized? For example, the height of some railings is 33 inches, some is 42 inches, and the spacing between the vertical boards and railings is different. Will all that be standardized from standpoint of, say, children getting through the railings, et cetera?
Be gone.
The stairs, we're looking at
Taking
different
out
engine.
stairs.
Yes, we're taking out the stairs, looking at different options to remove the stairs because of accessibility concerns. The trail needs to be as accessible as we can make it within the DNR guidelines, and that's one of the things that we're working on, and that's part of the design process that will be taking place.
So all these railings and so forth will be standardized to meet code. Is there a code, correct?
Well, yes, there are codes for that sort of thing.
And I found also holes in the planks on the bridges, and I assume the bridges will either be redone or taken away. 2 bridges had holes in the planks, rotted.
Okay. Part of the project scope would be to repair damage to bridge decks and things like that. The consulting firm will be looking at the bridge decks of the bridges that are to remain and make sure that they're safe for use, and recommend repairs as needed.
And my last question is liability. The city is responsible for the injury, any injury taking place along the trail?
I am not a lawyer, however,
That can be set up.
there is this thing called recreational immunity. We need to get the city attorney involved regarding the details on that, but the idea here is that if somebody is using land for recreational purposes, like walking or hiking or biking, and you're not doing anything specifically malicious to cause an injury, if someone gets injured, then it's at the person's risk who's using the facility.
Anything
Okay.
else?
Thank you.
I move adoption of contract 14-4 MPO trail lighting and paving and lighting engineering in accordance with the recommendations of the PCA committee to the joint venture of IIW and Delta 3 Engineering for a price of $219,852.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, and we'll vote.
Den,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Stockhausen,
Yes.
Bonin,
Yes.
Killian,
Yes,
Nichols,
Yes.
Seaboth Wilson,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right, next item, 5-year fire service agreements. We have our fire chief here this evening, so he can speak to the question.
Good evening.
Actually, I'm sorry, Ryan, I'd forgotten, this was tabled, so we need to make a motion to bring it off the table to have the discussion.
Make a motion that we remove this service agreement and put it back on the table.
second to the motion.
We have a motion and a second, and we'll vote.
Den,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Stockhausen,
Yes.
Bonin,
Yes.
Killian,
Yes,
Nichols,
Yes,
Seaboth Wilson,
Yes.
motion carries.
all right, now we're ready.
Okay. Well, I think we've hopefully answered all the questions that were out there from the townships. I haven't had any more calls or questions on anything yet this week. I've pretty much either talked or been able to get copies out to all of them, so they've all received updated copies of the information. So at this point, it's just going to be my recommendation that the council approves the agreement so we can move forward and send out an official copy to the townships to allow them to take it to their boards and hopefully pass the agreement so we can move forward.
I'll make a motion that we accept the fire service agreement of 2014 version.
Second.
I have a question.
All right,
What does it mean, Platteville Fire Department Incorporated, and hereby called a corporation? I thought the city owned the fire department.
They own the fire department, but the Platte Fire Department and Corporation owns the people, the labor. So essentially, the city contracts the labor, sorta, in a way, to the Fire Department Incorporated.
Are they a 501c3?
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you.
any other questions? Seeing none, we'll vote.
Den,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Stockhausen,
Yes.
Bonin,
Yes.
Killian,
yes,
Nichols,
Yes,
Seaboth Wilson,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you.
thank you. Under information and discussion, the first item is the intergovernmental agreement for the taxi/bus service.
Okay.
Forward.
Enclosed in your packet is a copy of the proposed intergovernmental agreement. I did get one minor correction to what's in your packet under number 12 on the front page in regards to the insurance coverage. It says with the city and university named as additional insured. That was recommended for to be changed to with the city and university / Board of Regents of the University of Wisconsin system named as additional insured. Otherwise, this has gone through the city's legal review, and that last was the only thing that was cited by the university's legal review, and so this basically outlines an intergovernmental agreement between the city and the university for our combined taxi and bus Platteville transit system. And I think this is a good place to start here.
Questions?
There'll be 3 shuttle buses. You've listed that underneath number 14. I thought in the previous meeting, it was said that a bus had to be purchased.
We have Mr. Russ Stratton here. He is the owner of Russ Stratton Buses Incorporated. I was going to introduce him for the next item regarding the bus service itself. But within the request for proposals, we're requiring 3 buses to do the services, and so I believe that what that means is that this bus service, in order to provide that, will need to get an additional bus to meet these services. What we're doing is we're identifying it for the purposes of our agreement.
On the front page, it says in 5th paragraph, the system will not purchase any buses before December 31st. So that's talking about university and the city.
Correct.
What is it talking about?
Yes. Right.
So the city's not purchasing any buses, but
right,
Stratton may have to.
Right. The contractor has to provide all the shuttle buses. The city owns and is providing the taxis for the taxi service, and under item number 16, we shall not have capital purchases of buses for the system before December 31st, 2017. It's still up to the city and the university to determine whether or not to provide buses in the future. But what we're codifying in here is that we will not provide any of those vehicles prior to that December 31st date. So until that time, as long as we are working underneath the or the bus contract and the terms of this agreement, the contractor will have to provide the 3 buses.
One question that I have, Howard, is I see here that the university wants to give us $150,000, and it's gonna be split in half based on their, I believe it was 7 months. First and foremost, the university doesn't have any subsidies whatsoever unless we agree to go into this contract with them, okay? So now, we're doing a service for them. It's just like electrician comes into your house and does a service for you, then you pay them, okay? So I think the university should be paying us for this service, or else if we don't do it, they don't get it. It's that simple. So I understand there's approximately 8,000 students over there, and the university at this time collects $30 from each student. That's $240,000, and they're only looking at giving us $150,000 total. I disagree with that. I think that we need to have a larger portion of that, and that will offset and give us a better tax break for our citizens instead of looking at approximately $40,839 of tax money. We could cut that back considerably, and since we are giving them a service, we need to be compensated for it. And so our citizens will also be compensated for it, because they do have that type of money. They use that money before to operate. Also, when the subsidies come back in, they have a pretty good chunk of that. And if they don't want to contribute more off the top, then we should take a larger percentage of their subsidies and be added to our subsidy to offset this. So we could actually get, with about $56,000 less, we could actually operate our taxi system without any taxpayer dollars. And the university is still going to get what they want. But I feel they should pay for this service.
First off, paragraph number 17, we have it in the agreement that the university pays an annual administrative cost equivalent to 12 hours of my wages and fringes to help support this. As far as I've been told, the $150,000 is approximately what the contract price is right now. Now, how much they actually collect in student fees and what they may or may not use any additional monies for, I don't know. We would have to ask them about that. We were looking at using the money that they currently provide for the contractor to basically match what they're currently providing the contractor. I wasn't looking at how much they were collecting, I was looking at how much they were paying out. If you decide as a council that you wish to ask the university for additional funding, that, you can certainly give me that direction. But that's where we put it right now. Now, as far as the subsidies go, because this system, this combined system, is operated by the city of Platteville, the federal and state grant money comes to the city of Platteville. That money never goes to the university. The city contracts for the taxi service, the city contracts for the bus service. So when they provide that service, they invoice the city for the contract amounts. And we provide that subsidy, and how we get the pieces of that subsidy, a lot of it is federal, state, and then the rest of it is made up by the local tax dollars and the university's student fees that are being provided to us in accordance with whatever agreement is finally approved. In my spreadsheets, I've kind of divided out, if we were to look at these systems individually versus collectively as a system, it gives you an idea of what the relative federal and state contributions would be towards the expenses of the taxi side and of the bus side. But to specifically earmark a certain amount of money, of federal money for one side or the other, it doesn't seem logical, because in the state's eyes, this is one system being provided by the city of Platteville, and then how we get our local match money is based on the intergovernmental agreement that we're discussing.
That's why it's real simple to change this before we get it, before we vote on it. It's simple enough. Let's be realistic about this. If we don't do it, they don't get it. So we're providing a service to the university as a city, okay?
No, the students.
A community, whatever you like to hear, Barb. Anyway, we're providing this service. They need to pay for this service. Or else, hey, if we don't do it, they don't get it, okay? Now then, it's very simple. If all that money comes to the city, we determine where it goes. If they don't want to add an additional amount of money to that 150,000 that they're gonna want to give, then we can easily take it out of the subsidy, the way the percentage of the subsidy are divided out. And therefore, it will help us offset some of our costs. And if they don't like it, then we don't have to do it. And they won't have their assistance. It makes a lot more sense from a taxpayer's point of view, and we can do that. Thank you.
I'm a little bit confused here, pardon me, but are you recommending that if the university does not increase that 150,000 per year subsidy, that we should cut back on the bus service in order to allow for more money to go towards the taxi? Is that how you're proposing it?
That's not what I said. I said we will use more of the subsidy that the university, that the buses would receive. Then, we've already looked at what we were hoping to have for the shuttle service, the routes and everything else, okay? Then, if they want to maintain that, then they're going to have to come up with some other money to keep that route the same. If they don't want to give us money from their 240,000 more to the 150,000, then they'll pay it the other way.
I have a question for you, Mike. How do you read number 6?
Okay.
It says the local share for operational grants in 2015 shall not exceed 75,000 from the university.
Correct.
That's just a half a year you're talking about?
Yeah, 7 months, I was told.
Okay.
And that's how we run into the 150,000, because it's 75 for each one.
Other
Yeah.
questions?
I do, as long as we were on 6, number 7, then, the local share for each ongoing year shall be split with the city responsible for paying 21.4 and the university responsible for 78.6. And is that based on 150,000 and 40,839?
Yes,
That's how that split is determined.
yes.
I noted that you, in number 17, indicated 12 hours of wages and fringes. That's for the year? You don't expect to spend more than 12 hours for a year in administering this contract? That's 1 hour a month. Just a
We have-
question, it seems.
In my mind, we have good contractors on both sides. The biggest thing that I believe that I'll be working on after the initial startup phase is reviewing and approving the invoices, and then budgeting at the end of the year.
Who does the analysis of ridership in terms of, I mean, I think we talked about that earlier for the taxi relative to the hours of operation, and we've added Sunday hours, and so somebody needs to be analyzing whether that's being used. We authorized at one point increased evening hours. We're talking about perhaps expanding bus routes, adding other routes in town. So who's going to do the analysis of those routings to determine if in fact, there's, we're going where we need to go, we're open the hours we need to be open. I mean, it seems like that could take a little bit more than 12 hours a year, unless that's not part of the responsibility of administering these contracts.
And the number of riderships, so we know if it's really valid.
May I jump in here, Howard, as a point of information? So, as everybody knows, just for the sake of me clarifying, is I work for the university on this project. So I just want to bring up a point that Howard and I have been discussing, is we expect in the first year in particular that there'll be more hands-on needs of that nature. And one of the things Howard and I have discussed is working on some sort of arrangement where the university can help compensate the city for that separate than this agreement. This is an ongoing long-term agreement, and those sort of issues, at least in that first year, are more of a communication, PR, outreach type of role, and we will need to build that out, but we didn't feel that it was necessary to put it in the agreement at this time, that we would work on the specifics of that and talk over in the next couple months about what those sort of details would look like.
It's actually not a long-term agreement right now. We specified in the council meeting that it would be a 1 year, and then we would look at it and decide what we were gonna do after that. So it's really only a 1 year at this point, until we get through that first year. And then we'll decide if we're gonna continue with it or not. So we don't wanna lead people, so they can think it's gonna be a long-term contract. We don't know that.
The language of the contract is written that it's an ongoing contract unless terminated. Pending approval of the council, it could be canceled after a year.
That's not what we agreed to in a council meeting. We have it in the minutes.
You know which minutes you're talking about?
Yes, I haven't actually gone back and looked, Barb, so the answer to your question is I haven't looked, but we discussed it fully at a council meeting, because I remember making one big issue to Howard about it.
Now, just so it's clear, if one person makes an issue directing Howard, that doesn't necessarily mean the entire council supports that.
But we voted on that, Larry.
You voted specifically that it would only be a 1-year contract.
No, what we said was it would be we would look at it after 1 year.
And that's how the contract is set up. You can definitely look at it after a year.
And we said we would decide whether we would continue at that point. So I just don't want everybody to think, oh, it's gonna be a 6-year contract. We don't know that yet.
That was in the motion to review it.
Right.
In conjunction with Barb's question about who's gonna do these things, looking at 2 and 3, this joint committee, is that joint committee going to be ongoing, or is that just for the start?
I expect that, that there will be a lot of work initially setting this part up with this joint committee. I would expect that after it's mainly set up, I would expect this to be a relatively minor thing, not used all that often. We would review scheduling, we would review fares, we would review different things for proposal to the council.
So the committee would continue.
Yes.
Strictly as an advisory to the council?
Yes.
Okay.
I have an additional question. What is the regular percentage used for contract administration? Like if we had a federal contract?
I don't know.
I really, I am not necessarily opposed to this. I just believe that during this first year, it says the system will be administered by the city. I understand that this agreement is supposed to govern some of the things. What I don't see in this is any mention of who has responsibility for creating any of the advertising, any of the promotional material. And frankly, if the system's going to be administered by the city and we're talking about you spending 12 hours, which is 1 hour a month, I just don't believe it can be done in that amount of time. I just don't believe that. And I don't think that's, I really think that in terms of contract administration of this, that you need to review that before it comes back for a vote.
Okay.
Because I mean, maybe other people up here don't feel as I do. Maybe they think that on 1 hour a month, that the work is going to get done. But I just don't, I can't imagine that even after it's in force, if it's more than a year, that it's only going to take 1 hour a month. When you're meeting with committees, you're evaluating information, you're planning for new things, I just think it's going to take a whole lot more than 1 hour a month. I would suspect it's going to take at least 1 hour a week, if not more.
while you're doing that, then I hope that you will look at this dollar value that I just discussed with you, or the subsidies, and see what you can come up with.
I also have a question as to, I know that we know how much our I am assuming we know how much the taxi revenue is on a regular basis. I see in your spreadsheets that taxi fare revenue is projected at 78,000. I also see that bus revenue is projected at 10,000. Are those, I'm assuming our taxi revenue is projected based on our past experience.
Yes.
And is the bus revenue also then based on experience?
No, it's based on the study that was provided by the regional planning on what they believe would be a reasonable amount of fare revenue that they think can be generated from the Platteville citizenry, the public, for use of for the buses.
And did they believe that that would be generated in the first year, or was that a projection after implementation? I don't have that study.
I don't recall exactly how that was promoted, but I believe that was what they were using.
I believe it's a very conservative estimate based upon first year.
Other questions?
I have one more quick one. Will there be a log sheet kept on the buses, listing, people, as far as if they're students, if they're elderly, if they're average people, handicap, or health, like we're doing with the taxi?
That's
Because
probably
apparently
the
there's
next
only one set fee at this point, is that correct?
That's the next discussion.
Oh, that's for next one? Okay, I
Yeah,
apologize.
yeah.
Okay,
We're in
we're going too far here, I'm sorry,
intergovernmental
yes. I'll rephrase that.
Other questions on the intergovernmental agreement? Hearing none, then we'll move on to the contract for the 614 bus service. And I think, Mike, this is when your question then would be answered. Howard, do we have a response for that?
We don't, that's one of the issues that we're going to need to work out with Mr. Stratton to see how we're going to be able to account for a lot of those folks. Currently, the bus system has a card reader that they use to log in student riders, and they provide that information. We'll be working with Mr. Stratton on whatever reports that we're going to be able to achieve. I don't know if he's willing to come up here and commit to anything right now, but he is here in the audience if you want to, if he has any thoughts on that.
Mr. Stratton? If you would come to the microphone, please, give your name. Your company, I guess.
Russ Stratton from Stratton Buses. Yeah, I expect I was going to get on the hot seat here in a minute. The card readers we have right now, we don't keep track of that data. The university does. This is only my thought on how this would work. I would assume they use their student ID, so we know where they got on, or the system calculates where they got on, where they got off. We don't, there's no reason for us to know that information. The university has that. I assume in the new system, we're going to need to know that as well. I would anticipate that possibly they're going to come to, if somebody wants to ride this, they're going to come and buy some kind of a card or something from the city. That's just my own thought on that. So then they're going to get on and swipe into the same system that's already in place. So then that card, they're going to come in here and buy it accordingly. They're going to buy a senior citizen card or a child card or however that's all set up. Again, that's just another one of those things that we have to work through. Then they'll swipe it and again, I would assume they can buy a card. Maybe they can buy a card by the month. Maybe they just buy a card for the whole year. I mean, again, that's how that's all set up. And then once they swipe, the system will be able to tell where they got on and where they got off and how many times they got on or off, correct? Amy?
Yeah, yep, that's how basically it's established right now, and then the ongoing conversation would be, before the system begins in May, the joint committee that's outlined in the intergovernmental agreement, would need to make decisions about whether or not they like that payment method and how it would be charged.
The other question along with that, though, obviously there's gonna be a lot of people that aren't gonna, at one point you said the card was would be $30 for an annual ride in our discussion. But for everybody else, what about the person that hops on and hands you $1?
Probably aren't gonna take cash.
Right, we do that a little bit with once in a while if there's somebody that does that now, but we're gonna try to figure out how we're gonna get away from that. Because the drivers aren't, again, they're not gonna be carrying money on there. So,
Well, obviously, the occasional rider won't be involved in that, because he's not gonna buy a card as occasional, 3 days, 5 days?
We need to work on those sort of specifics, Mike. I definitely don't think that we're in a position to tell you definitives now. We have until May to work on those types of details. At this point, getting the contract established and the big picture stuff was the focus of our discussions.
Amy, what is your involvement with this contract?
My involvement has been as the university's representative. I currently am the person who works with Russ Stratton and runs the bus from the campus's perspective. The contract that you're seeing in front of you was drafted purely by Howard, and I believe it's pretty
And
much
the DOT.
in the DOT. I was gonna say it's in keeping with the DOT's expectations and standards. I worked with Howard to draft the intergovernmental agreement on behalf of the university.
And then in the future, what's your involvement?
Well, I am the transportation coordinator for the university, so I would continue to be a member of that committee that was outlined in the governmental agreement, I believe, that joint committee. But as far as I'm concerned, that's all I would have to do with this, other than meeting the students' needs and making sure the students have access to the bus and have those sort of things met. But otherwise, this would be, again, I'm a representative that can make recommendations, but the council would be the final say and whether things get approved, as it says in the intergovernmental agreement.
I think we need the information, though, before we go into the full contract with this, as how you're gonna handle everything, not just part of it.
I don't understand what you mean.
Okay, we were just talking about the fee schedules?
Yes.
How you would handle the people that wanna get on for one ride?
That would be a joint decision by the council ultimately, but informed by the intergovernmental committee. The intergovernmental agreement said there's a joint committee being funded or created, and it would be made of university and city reps. We don't know who's on the committee yet. That would be going forward. We'd make those decisions in the coming month. They'd make recommendations to the council, and the council would have the final say.
Okay, that would be fine, but we need all that information before we say contract, because what if there's some of the things that we don't like on there?
Because you have the final approval of those decisions, Mike, as a
We
council
do,
rep.
but I wanna see it in writing before
It
you
would
bring
be
it to
in
us.
writing when it comes to you.
Okay, and so have it part of the contract.
It's in your agreement, if you look at it, 1, 2, 3 talks about the joint committee and the staff representative.
But there isn't any real specifics yet
No,
about
but
what we
that's,
just discussed. I wanna see those in there.
You'll have a say in it. That would be your final decision. Sorry, Barb.
I was just going to ask, Russ, right now you use a card reader and it's only students whose cards you read, or if I'm a staff member, does my card read also?
Russ may not know how to answer that, so I'll jump in. Yes, it can read your card as long as you pay. So you
Amy,
have to
could
go to
I-
the student center and have your card activated once you pay, if you're faculty and staff.
Okay.
If you're not faculty and staff or not affiliated with the university, you buy a card, and I can show you. You buy a magnetic stripe card that just says it's a community pass, and then you use that to swipe. So I will
Amy,
show.
can I make a suggestion? Sometimes in local government, when you have multiple roles in a smaller community,
Yeah.
it's a good idea to separate yourself from the city council when you're representing the university, and to sit with the council when you're
Yeah.
representing the city. So if you're representing the university, would you be comfortable coming back maybe onto this side of the table and
Sure.
speaking?
Do people want me to? Yes.
Probably would be a good practice.
Okay.
This is gonna be a difficult position for you, Amy, and I really wanna make sure that we don't have a conflict at some future time.
And I'm hoping that she will understand that and not decide to vote on this, because it's definitely a big conflict of interest. So I feel you do not have a vote on this.
I obviously would not vote on it.
Thank you.
Other questions for Mr. Stratton?
I just have a question. Russ, the contract, your contract, and I haven't read through all of it, did it include any provision that you had to provide the mechanism for card readers or keeping track of fares or anything like that?
No, it didn't talk about that. And I seem like you asked me some of those questions about those readers and stuff, and I don't really know.
Right.
Part of it is just, it's the university's reader. They're trying to gather that information, who's riding, if it's feasible to continue to do it and stuff. And so, again, I just do what, they want to continue doing. They want to cut it back. They want to change a stop. We just do that. I understand in this new system, we're going to need to know more about that. But right now, it's just one client of ours, and we.
But on the other hand, Howard, it appears to me that this is another thing that needs to be covered in the intergovernmental agreement about the costs associated with establishing this pay system. And at this point in time, I believe that Russ is assuming that it will be continued to be read through the university system as it is now. If that's not the case and we have to purchase or something, make a system so that there are card readers, because obviously the contract did not include his having people on the bus that had money and all of those things. That has to happen somehow. So and maybe that's further down the road, and it's certainly not Russ's, it wasn't in the contract, but it needs to be in our agreements, unless the city is assuming those costs. Because at this point in time, without it being in the intergovernmental agreement, with the city being the systems administrator, and with it not being included in the contract, the only logical conclusion is it becomes our responsibility.
Understood.
And we don't need that additional monetary responsibility.
Or we need to figure out how that monetary responsibility is going to be covered.
Understood.
Dick has
Barb?
something up.
Oh, no,
Oh.
that's the.
Well, my
example
question
card.
is, who will be responsible for these magnetic cards for the community? Who will buy, where will they go? And how much will that cost? The community people, which is the whole point, is to get people on those buses so they don't have to walk if they don't want to.
Yeah, that's one of the issues that we're going to be working through with this joint committee and bringing back to you folks in these intervening months.
Number 2 on the intergovernmental agreement specifically points out the payment systems and capital, the fare prices, operating hours are all going to be decided by the joint committee that's created by this agreement.
They're going to be decided, they're not going to be paid for.
Yeah, doesn't say anything about paying.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Doesn't say anything about paying, though, does it?
Oh, the administrative fees?
No, it doesn't say, I agree, Larry, that it says major decisions involving selecting, operating, price fares, payment systems, capital investments will be made by the committee. It doesn't say who's going to be responsible for paying for the decisions made. That's my point.
Right.
Howard, this thick packet that we received for the taxi service, there are a lot of questions that we've been asking that have been addressed, I think, for the taxi. Did
Yeah.
the process for the bus also follow this?
That was the same request for proposals. I had worked with the Department of Transportation, and their recommendation was that we put out a single request for proposals, and that we do it in such a way that either we get proposals for a joint taxi bus company to come in and do it, or to have separate taxi and bus contracts. And so we worked together on this, and that's what we put out as the single proposal packet for both the taxi and the bus. There are sections in, a lot of it applies to both. There are sections that apply to just the taxi, and there are sections that apply just to the bus portion of the contract. And like I say, both of our proposers use that as the basis of their proposals.
Because I'm looking in here and seeing like reservation services, radio communications, radio equipment, maintenance of leased equipment, contracted personnel, type of coverage for insurance purposes. Is it promotion and publicity, is that also included in the proposal for the bus service or not? Can I assume that everything is the same? You just said there are some changes. So I don't know.
What I'm saying is that it's a boilerplate type of a thing that the DOT was working with us on, that is to cover, that covers both sides of the system, the taxi and the bus portion of the system.
Okay.
Some of these items, like dispatching, only applies to the taxi portion, because the bus is a fixed route. They start and they go on their fixed route, throughout all their hours. So
Okay.
that part doesn't apply to them. But then there are other, and same thing with maintenance of leased equipment. At this point, based on the provisions within the proposal of the contract and the instructions of council, of the Common Council, only the taxi service has leased equipment that the city owns and leases back to them. Now, if in the future, if the council decides to continue this service, and if the council decides in the future that it wishes to purchase shuttle buses or other equipment, then those pieces of equipment would be leased, and then the maintenance portions and other provisions would have to apply at that point. But as we said in the intergovernmental agreement, we're not going to be purchasing any buses or that capital equipment until before December 31st, 2017. So we have a ways to go, and Mr. Stratton, he's seen that in the contracts, and he understands that, and so he understands that he needs to provide, the equipment, the vehicles that, for doing that.
Mm-hmm. So for example, the monthly reports that the taxi is going to provide, because we're talking about trying to determine who's riding, how often people are riding, that sort of thing. Would the monthly reports be required from the bus contractor?
As we're working through this, that's one of the things that we had talked about, is how do we make sure that we get those reports. We have the card reader system that will be able to get us the reports that we will need from the bus system. And we're going to have to work through exactly where those reports come. Do they come to Mr. Stratton, who then provides them to me? Do they come through the university's IT people and then to the two of us? We haven't worked that part of it out, but those reports have to come to us at some point in time, and those are part of the reports that are required, not only for us for the ridership, but also for the DOT as part of their
So the DOT also requires us, okay.
They're very critical for us to determine the functionality and how the ridership is working, and if it's really something that we need to continue, because that's the basis of the whole thing. We're gonna have you work through something because of the casual person that gets on and pays. They're gonna be counted also, need to be accounted also, not just the card readers. And we're gonna need that information so we can determine how it's gonna work.
Right, and it sounds like the DOT also requires that in terms
Yes.
of ridership, so, reports. Other
So-
questions on the bus service contract?
I've asked this question before. I'm wondering how the schedule is gonna be learned. How are we gonna find out, let's say I live at, I'm living near Harrison Park. Okay, I wanna get on a bus. So, 6 months from now, or a month from now, or a week. How do I find out what the schedule is, what time it's gonna go, what time it'll arrive at my destination, say Walmart, and then what time do I get on another bus? Would you handle that, Amy? Would that be
Actually, Howard, I think,
new
could answer
setup?
that.
Will Howard handle that? Who's gonna do that? I read this, Amy, here, that uwplatt.edu go bus is where you get a schedule now.
Well,
Will that change?
that's where that's the information where the shuttle bus service information is right now.
Right now, will that change
But
in the
what-
future?
Well, we're going to have to work together with the university as part of that joint committee to establish those routes, working with Mr. Stratton to establish the routes and at that point, what we do is we make sure that we do the advertising and publication that we talked about a little bit earlier, city website and other means of putting the word out to people on how and where the bus routes are, so that people will know.
You're gonna need to have a printed flyer that you can hand out to people for that. So if some of them really do wanna use it, they can take it home and stick it on their refrigerator so they'll know, because they're not gonna remember. Because a lot of people aren't gonna have a computer to go in and mess with to find this stuff.
I know the taxi has done print advertising before, Mike, so to my mind, it may have something similar to that as well.
Well, and Eileen, you were pointing out the contract in 219, it says promotion and publicity, the contractor's responsible
Right.
for promotion and publicity relative to the service.
Yeah, I would think we're gonna have some, maybe it's a half-size sheet of paper, some little pocket thing or something. Once the route's established, we'll have that to hand out. It'd be just like a airport shuttle bus or the transit system at the airport where it says, and it'll have a map on where we're going. We'll have something like that posted in there. University website, city website, we'll probably put it on our website, but then we'll probably have whatever website, if it's the city's, we'll probably have the city's website on, schedule, we can just print that right on the back end of the bus, schedule, go to here, and then the people that see it driving, they'll know where that schedule is as well. They can go online and get that.
Definitely gonna have a handout flyer though that people can take with them.
Yeah. And I think as you get ready, once that's produced, I think you can put it into a lot of different businesses as well around town, ahead of time. So people got this and they know where that all is. So.
Separate from you, Russ, but again, back to the intergovernmental agreement, it seems to me that if there's the assumption that the card reader system is going to be through the university, that should be noted in the intergovernmental agreement, and that it should be noted that would be at no charge, and that it would not be part of the 75,000 or 150,000, that would be another way that we work together.
We will review that.
I think this is a tough concept for us to review, but it's definitely necessary. Our town is growing. There are many people that walk, but there are days when it's raining. And if they can get to a bus stop and be ready to jump on, I think we'll have better, happier ridership. Taxis don't always come on time because they obviously have fares that take them outside the area. I'm looking forward to it.
Since we have you up there, Russ, if you mind one more question from me anyway. I know how the taxi services has worked in the past where the majority of the people are handicapped or have health issues. And when they go to the grocery store, the taxi guys get their groceries, put them in the taxi for them. When they take them home, they take the groceries out, they take them in the house for people because they can't do that. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but shuttle bus drivers are probably not gonna do that, are they?
Well, they can't leave their, they can't leave their
In the
bus,
vehicle?
especially
Okay.
if you got other people on.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
But one of the things too, as far as the scheduling, now again, if the route works out, the way the route works right now is pick a number, whatever, we got 8 or 10 stops, but if we're at Walmart at 7 minutes, from 7 minutes after the hour till 17 after the hour, we're there every hour at the same time. So when somebody's trying to figure out what time's the bus coming here, it's coming here at 5 after 8, 5 after 9, 5 after 10, 5 after 11. So as long as the route doesn't get too big that you can't get it all done in an hour, we'll be working at trying to keep it that same way. So, you know, it's not like, oh, well, what time was that it was here yesterday? Well, no, it's every hour at the same time.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
And it works out well for if you're going to Walmart, you know, if you're quick and you got something, the bus is going to sit there. Currently it does. It sits out there for 10 minutes, gives the driver time to get out, go and use the restroom, grab a Coke or something like that. But there's a 10-minute break out there. But if it's not, you got an hour, you know, get your shopping done in an hour and the bus is going to be back out there. So it'll work out, that part will work out well.
I see the bus being used by more able-bodied persons. You know, as Russ said, you may have somebody that goes out there, get 1 or 2 bags, they can walk onto the bus themselves, they can go there. I see it being used by people who work at different places. If they know that the bus will get to that place, you know, at 5 minutes till the hour and that they're supposed to start work on the hour, they get on the bus and they go there and then they come back. I see this as being used by a lot of folks. If you are an elderly person who needs additional assistance, if you have all those things, we still have the taxi option for that door-to-door specific service that costs a little bit more in fare money, but that's the trade-off that we have. And to me, it opens up additional options for our citizens.
Well, I just want to make a note. You do know the Commission on Aging also has a bus.
Yeah.
They're specifically designed to do what you're talking about, Mike, is they'll stop at different points, do the groceries, help, and they do a good job too.
Other questions? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Stratton.
Thank you.
Howard, I apologize, I didn't give you a chance to actually go over the memo that you had attached. Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
No, that's fine. If somebody had any other questions, I can certainly do that.
Howard will be available for questions in his office as well, so if you think of another question, don't be shy about asking.
Not this week.
Last item on the agenda, you have in front of you a timeline for hiring an executive search firm for the city manager position. This is for your review. It's a pretty aggressive timeline, but we think that it's doable. If you have any comments, you certainly can make them to me if you have any suggestions.
How are you gonna do the first one by January 5?
Well, request for
It says review
proposals.
job description and develop a candidate profile with input from city council, city staff, city partners, and city residents. This is the last meeting of December, and the next meeting will be sometime in January after the 5th.
Actually, the request for proposals would include a request that they look at jointly with the council some of the job descriptions and things like that, Ken. So what we
It
would,
says to assist.
yeah, what we would propose is to actually do a request for proposals for a firm that would assist us in things like the first series of bullet points. So it says engage a recruitment firm to assist with the process as follows.
But the timeline, I don't see how you can do it. We have no meetings, no more meetings scheduled until after January 5th.
Okay, so you're saying that the request for proposals, you don't see how we can actually put something together and send it out without council approval? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay, so is it, if the council would agree, is it acceptable that the president and the president pro tem would put together a request for proposal? Again, because it's going to be a series of,
It's just a
I think
request
we
for.
all need input into that.
It's just a request for proposals. Let's clarify. You're talking about a request for proposals for the search and screen firm.
right, for the firm that would do the actual search and screen.
And at that point, we wouldn't have put together anything yet about the position description or what we're seeking in the candidate.
Just
It's
gonna-
just for the request for proposal for
Right.
the search and screen.
It would be to say to the search and screen firm that we are in the process of looking for a,
We're just gonna
City
say, we're
manager.
looking for city manager, about one paragraph, and that's it.
there are other items that you can add to that, Ken, but it's not going to be a job description that we are going to be proposing along with the search.
Don't you think that first and foremost, we need to agree on a search company or committee before we just do that? We're not just gonna pick one. Obviously, we need to approve as a council which one we wanna use.
Right, the search firm would be approved by the council.
It says that on
Okay.
January 27th.
Yeah, the search firm would be approved by the council. This is very simply a request for proposals
Oh, just to
to search
advertise.
firms,
To advertise.
to advertise that
Okay.
we're looking for a search firm to assist the city of Platteville in the
that's-
search for a
yeah.
new city manager.
That's fine that you two do it,
That's what this
from
would
my
be.
point of view.
We gonna have any,
Ken, what have you done in the past that you have a question about?
We have used search firms in the past, Barb.
what's these search firms gonna cost us?
That's right.
That's part of their proposal. They will tell
Okay.
us what they would.
What's it cost in the past?
I don't remember what the last one,
Well,
know.
should know, it's
Austin.
only been 4 years ago.
Dwayne's not here, otherwise I'm sure he probably would be able to tell us that, but I don't know.
Basically, you would include this wish list of activities in that proposal, and they'd come back with a price.
Right.
And we would reserve the right as a council to approve one that we like or not approve any of them if they're too expensive.
That's correct.
I'm perfectly fine with the president and or vice president, pro tem?
Sure.
Then you will notice it says council reviews proposals and engages firm by January 27th. So the council makes a decision on January 27th about whether to hire a firm and which firm.
And then it says here, firm completes job description review and candidate profile by February 6th. I think your timeline is too soon.
I think you might be right, but we wanted to start with something, and once we have a search firm, they can help us determine the timeline. But if we didn't put dates down, we would be saying, well, we'll do that in February. Or we'll do that in January, Ken. So what we're trying to do is say, well, this is a proposed timeline, it may change. But hopefully not extensively.
Can we do this with the dates? I realize they're important, but if we get into a situation, can we also have the option to maybe have to back something up a few
Yes.
days so we can get things completed?
Yes,
Okay.
we're not gonna rush through something. If we're not comfortable as a council, we will be able to change those timelines. It's a proposal. It's not set in stone.
Any of these names, 5 here in the bottom, are any of them ones that you used last time?
I think it may have been Springstead. Does anyone remember for sure? I
It was
don't.
RW Management.
Sorry?
It says, it was RW Management last time.
RW Management, sorry? Other questions?
By when are you gonna send out this request to the firms?
By January 5th.
January 5th. So if I get a name of a firm or names,
Please let us know.
5th,
Yep. Yep. Anybody who has any suggestions, just add to this list. These are the ones we're aware of now. We did contact the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, ask them for ideas of search firms, and some of the names came from them. Other questions? All right, seeing none.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
I have a motion and a second, and we'll vote.
Den,
Yes.
Goss,
Yes.
Stockhausen,
Yes.
Bonin,
Yes.
Killian,
yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Seaboth Wilson,
Yes.
motion
I'll go
carried.
through my,
Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy New Year.
Ho, ho, ho.
go through my material.